Hello and welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining me. So, if you're not watching this on video, I highly suggest you do because I've got my husband on video with me today. We're sitting in our media room and surrounded by dogs. Kids out of the house, but dogs are here. So, if you hear sounds, I'm so sorry. But, Richard, say hello.
Hi, how's it going?
He does not want to do this, but he is a trooper and he loves me enough to do it with me. So this is episode number 100. If you have been on this journey with me for a couple of years, I really appreciate you. If you're new to this journey, I appreciate you. So, hi. I hope the sound comes through okay because there's two of us that are side by side instead of through a camera. So, say hi to everyone. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, I am Navart's husband. I am a police officer, currently a detective. I've been a cop for almost 17 years. And I would also, firstly, like to apologize for the mustache. That is something that I am doing at work. And so normally I don't have that, but and the hair. But being that it's a Saturday and it's day off, that's where we're at. So, yeah.
I actually did not used to, early on in the marriage, was not a huge facial hair person, and now he's telling me he wants to shave it, and I said, no, it's grown on me. I like it.
Which is kind of interesting. So,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Things changed. So we've been together since 2004. I was 19. He was 20. We started dating in college at TCU. We got married 3 years later-ish.
Yeah.
You graduated first.
I did, yeah. Came out of college a year before her, got a job, introduction to the real world. College is a nice little stepping stone, but yeah, it's not the real world. And then, we got married. I had to call her dad over in Jerusalem, and that was an interesting phone call. It's never nice when you call somebody and you guys say, "Hey, I'd like permission to marry your daughter," and the phone just gets really quiet. And I do. I love my in-laws, but that's anybody that's old-fashioned like that still does that is gonna have to cross that line when they get there, cross that bridge. So it's not fun. It's not fun. It's definitely nerve-wracking. So thankfully we only have a son, so hopefully I don't have to. Someone's not going to be asking me to marry Tristan, but yeah.
Yes, that would be different. You never know.
Change,
yeah. So in preparation for this episode, I tried to think before I asked everyone for opinions on a topic. I was like, what are we going to talk about? Then I was like, no, I'm just going to open it up. And we got some interesting. We're definitely not talking about Vicky's topic. Your cousin Vicky. We're throwing you under the bus. No, we're not talking about your topic. You know what your topic is. My mom listened. She wanted to talk about sex. My mom and dad listened to this. We're not doing that. Yeah. Thanks for that, Vicky.
Although it is important.
It is important. Maybe we'll touch on it. But we had some other topics, but we're going to go through some of them. I just wrote them down. Rich has no idea what the topic was, or topics are. None of them.
Some of the guys at work will pop in on this stuff, so I'm already, I know this isn't live, but just imagining what I'm going to go through is already interesting.
Yeah. So you're not in the Facebook group, so you don't get to see. I've kept him out of most of that. So it's just for your protection. So I wrote down some of the topics, and then I have some of my own that I want to touch base about. But we've already covered Vicky. Thanks for that. Okay, so let's. Jennifer, your sister had some good ones. And some of my friends had some good ones. But, so I'm going to combine some of these. So one of the things that I talk about a lot, preach about a lot, is the idea of friendship in a marriage.
Sure.
And it's one that I think a lot of people don't, I don't know if it's not think about it or just kind of don't understand that. But one thing, so let's go back. So when we got married, we got married in the summer, and I started grad school, and you started the police academy. And we went into that with very fun. Dog's gonna chew a toy. Sorry if you hear squeaking. We went into that already knowing that it was going to be a hard world to be in. Law enforcement was very, the divorce rates were very high. So we went in knowing that we needed to be different. We needed to have conversations. We needed to have a different kind of marriage so that we didn't end up a statistic. Right. And then I started grad school and started learning about like couples counseling and things like that. So I think we just started out with decisions that we weren't going to do some of the mistakes we had family members do or things like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's always having that, I guess everybody gets together in different parts of their lives. Their lives, not lives, I should say. It's horrible English. But yeah, for us, I guess unique situation. Anytime you start with somebody going into my profession, and then someone who's, as our dog gets even more excited.
I'm gonna get the dog toy out of the way.
Yeah, I think just having that, knowing that you're going to face some of those obstacles, knowing that, there's going to be things, me speaking from my line of work, I don't always talk about everything that happens at work. It's not nice to worry your spouse about things you're doing at work or anything like that, but the important stuff, we absolutely do talk about. Nev keeps me grounded. Actually, it's a running joke at work that because she's a therapist and I'm a cop, is that I'm dating my therapist basically. But yeah, no, and I don't really know what there is to it. When you say dating your best friend or marrying your best friend, but I think in any relationship, not just being married to a therapist, but I think in any relationship, I've seen even with guys that at work, and some of my detective buddies and officer buddies who are have good marriages and things like that. I think that you just have fun. It's I think you have to have a friendship, even if you don't, friends that turn into a relationship. But I think that the important thing is that you just make sure that you're friends first. One day, not to get on Vicky's topic, but one day, I like to joke in high school, sorry, Maha Naeem, but, I used to, all your buddies, guys joke that, yeah, I'll be, having sex in my 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever. I'd probably not. I don't know. I just turned 40, so, but there has to be, while it's an important component, I think that you have to be friends. You have to enjoy each other's company. You have to make sure that that's somebody you want to do that. And I can also say, Nev is my best friend, and we are silly together. We go on vacations together. We do, even if it's just a simple, quick meal at our local place, Salsa or Michante or one of those places, it's always fun, even out running errands. So being with her does not feel like a job. I think she gives me space when I'm playing a video game or something, because even though I'm 40, I'm probably mentally stuck at around 22. But I think everything, and any value to a relationship, obviously being married in couples, but any kind of relationship that you have has to be sincere, and there has to be a friendship level to it to, I guess, to make it. It's always been easy. I don't know. I can't say that it's been work. I think we're both goofballs, so I think that me more than you, but I think that helps too.
I hear our dog stealing food.
Yes,
right now.
We have a thief in the house.
But yes, and it's hard because I think one of the things was how to have that fun and that friendship amid the chaos of marriage, right? And the kids and all of that. And I think that's hard. I think you just have to make the time to do things together. Like and that was part of why we decided to only have one kid, is that our marriage, we didn't want our marriage to be so far down the list that we lost track of that. And it doesn't mean that you always do it right. There are times where we don't get, we were just talking this morning, we usually, sorry, our horse
furry kids.
Our 8-month-old Great Dane. But yeah, we used to, I guess before COVID, like every year we would go on a little trip, just the two of us. And we were just talking this morning, we haven't been able to do that since COVID started, but that's something that we need to get back to. But even if we can't go out, even if we can't do anything, we can't leave the house for whatever reason, we always try to make sure that we prioritize checking in, talking. And it's not just serious, like, tell me about what's going on in your life. A lot of the times it's just memes on Facebook that we show each other and laugh about it. We watch movies and shows together. We just tolerate certain things that we may not be super excited about, but if the other person is interested in it, like, here, let me show you this, with the exception of, like, I won't make you watch The Bachelor.
Well, I don't watch, what do you call those shows?
Reality trash. TV it's my trash. I'm allowed to watch my trash.
I stick with sci-fi.
Yeah.
Again, being a kid, being a nerd,
but it's knowing that, like, if your spouse is into something that matters to them, being able to show interest, even if you don't know what they're talking about, just it matters to them, take an interest. But I think, do you hear him? Do you want to go stop him?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. He's gonna go stop the dog. So we have a Dane that free feeds in his crate. All his food's in his crate. And the dachshund, who's overweight, goes in there and steals food. It's a problem. So, and he's taking advantage of the fact that we are not supervising right now. You can just close it, Rich. Okay. Thank you. But so back to that, it's a choice, and it's also like part of it is a choice. Is like, make time. Don't take yourself too seriously. Make a decision to insert fun, but then at the same time you just have to like that person, right? So if you're married to someone and you just don't like each other, that's a problem. And so we just got lucky. I like you a whole lot. And making a point, like if there's, and this kind of goes in, someone was asking about love languages and different ways that you express, show love, receive love. And it's knowing, like you were saying, giving you space, like there are things that you like to do that I know, like I can come home from a long day and go and then like do the dishes and do stuff like that. And it doesn't take as much out of me to keep doing certain things, knowing that like my need for downtime looks different than yours. Right. You can come home and do all those things, but it matters more to you to be able to sit and play a game or just kind of decompress by reading something on your phone or whatever. So it's, if I know that that's something that you need, then I will make sure to give that to you. But we had to build to that, right? Like we've been together for over 20 years. We didn't know all these things up front. So we just talk about it and we observe and we learn. And like I said, you don't take yourself too seriously. You just gotta be able to have fun.
I think it also depends on what stage in the relationship you're in. I mean, I don't feel like we've changed all that much, but I mean, it's kind of one of those things where if you, she's got to go run and get the dachshund again. You don't hear the beatings going on the side. Just kidding. But no, I think that I do think that it's one of those things that everybody's going to have different levels of where they're at in a relationship. Depending on where you're at. We met, I think I was 19.
You were 20. I was 19.
2019. So here I am, 40. Much different life experiences, and it depends on what you want out of the relationship. And I don't think that, and I've always said that, like, I don't know, everybody says relationships are work, and to some degree they are. I mean, there's always going to be compromises. I think some of that came from being kind of raised by a single mother, and kind of getting everything. My sister Kelly, and then of course I have 4 sisters, but being directly raised by my sister Kelly, everything that a boy did or something like that was always, don't you ever treat a girl like that or do this or do that or anything. So and I think that everybody just kind of gets what they gets different things they pick up along the way, and you kind of mold them to what you want, treat someone how you want to be treated. And that's kind of, I think that kind of goes towards what you want out of your partner. If you wouldn't want your partner to treat you a certain way or do something, then maybe you shouldn't do that. And I mean, no one's perfect. I mean, we're not that's not anything like that. But I'm also the same type of person. I joke with the guys at work. We all joke about the same thing. As if things didn't work out with us, I'm done, man. I'm not. I've got all my eggs in this basket, and then if that, you'll see me in a basement somewhere playing World of Warcraft or something. Because I think if you're making backup plans, or if you're not committed to something, then I think that that's probably not where you need to be. But
so you made a reference to something that I think is a good topic. So your sister Kelly and I have lots of things in common, but one is that we're very sensitive.
Yes.
So what is it like, Richard, being married to a very sensitive person who, granted, I've toughened up a lot over the years. I used to cry about more, but what is it like to be a tough guy married to a really whiny, sensitive girl?
Well, I used to be more sensitive. Sometimes sometimes I almost want to make myself see if I can cry, just see if I still can. But there's been some stuff in the past where I feel like the dogs even turned on me because, if I said something that wasn't even mean, we don't cuss at each other. We don't. I don't even know if we even raise our voices. But that's also kind of her thing is. She is incredibly sensitive, so I'm also, not that I walk on eggshells, because it's not that at all. I just know how she is, and that's kind of, I've adjusted to it, and
you really have. So I have to brag on you. You've learned over the many years that we've been together how to approach. And I think we've done that together. Like, I've learned how to toughen up and not take things as personally, and. But you have learned how to anticipate certain things that I don't like. You you can't be sarcastic with me because that hurts my feelings.
Well, yeah, that's actually one of the harder things is anybody who's I've only done my adult life as law enforcement. Most of my family is firefighters or law enforcement, and so that kind of environment is incredibly crass and incredibly and we get around with dark humor, not just that, everybody teases each other, and it's just the way, that's just, it's that alpha male alpha female type environment. So there's times she'll catch me if I bring that home, where she's, she'll tell me, hey, you're being too sarcastic, or the way I would joke with the guys, and I have to do that, and it's compartmentalize that, and I'll say this too. It's not even in definitely not disrespectful. You don't want to do that, but the way I talk to my buddies, one of my best buds is Jeff, which is one of her best friends, is his wife,
Jenny.
Yeah, and the way I'll talk to Jeff, the way we'll joke, may not joke in front of the girls that way. Not that it's demeaning or anything. It's just there is a natural difference, between a man and a woman, and given experiences and stuff like that. And I think that's something I'm always careful on. Is and I'm even with unfortunately with my language sometimes, I try not to bring that home. And not that it's a big deal at work or anything, but I just think that you want to kind of have this carve out, this special, my safe space, my comfort is with her, and I've made this, that's the most important part of my life, and so I think that you want to do your best to protect that and insulate that, and build that, it's like if the car's falling apart around you, as long as the engine's still going, you're still going. And so that's been incredibly important to me for, not just for my job, but I guess in our relationship as well. And so these are things that, I'll just do, and she's like, oh, this is some kind of therapeutic counseling thing, and I don't know. And now, one thing I didn't say at the beginning, I am now currently a grad student, going into counseling, clinical, but not as I think my mother made reference. I don't plan on, just doing random stuff. I'd like to work with first responders, and for us, it's kind of hard talking to people, that haven't been in it, and so we'll see how that goes. I've only in 6 hours into that journey, so we'll see. But I've got a good mentor and teacher here, so.
Sorry, I'm making faces that are gross dogs right now. If I made weird faces, I apologize. Okay, so but with that, I think comes to your point of the whole sarcasm thing. Like, you had to make a decision, because you could have easily been like, "You're too sensitive. You need to stop." Hold on. Ugh. Dobby, move.
See, this is a good example of the chaos that happens in this house, and we have one child with the 3 fur babies sitting around here, so.
Yes, everything gets knocked over. But yeah, you could have very easily, that could have turned into a problem where we both were, upset with each other, couldn't meet in the middle, but we both realized we had to change. Like, I had to get stronger and tougher and really work on not being such a whiny baby and crying at everything. And then you realized that you needed to also have a filter and realize, not, like, just make the adjustments that were appropriate to our relationship.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, and that's, again, it goes back to what you want out of it. If you're, I think some of that comes naturally if you're just willing to, take the time. And it's not, again, I just don't ever consider it work. I think you just kind of grow together. But, work would be sometimes, I'm trying to teach our son, sometimes it's just nice to do little things. Not just to say sorry or anything, but even if it's a $8.99 bouquet of flowers from Walmart or something, that, I guess that could be a little work. You go out of your way, or send, crumble cookies or something like that. Leaving.
You are very good at that. He's very good at
leaving
that.
A note. I don't know.
Randomly at work, I'll just get a delivery of cookies.
Well, because also I like to eat them when I get home, so there's a double thing there. Yeah. But I think that it's also just, that's just one of those things. Those are small things that go a long way. She'll pull out, I don't know if she finds them or however they come, but like from college, letters that I wrote and stuff, and then make me gag now. But, it's, again, as you change, I'll still try and take time to do, something like that here or there. And she's coached me on that. Sometimes I say coached, but like, you might do something that you don't even realize means something to the other person, saying they look nice. I think it's just, I think when you first start in a relationship, you're kind of just really attracted to the person. You're trying to, people enjoy the chase and the different things, like what you'd see on a Hallmark movie or TV or something like that. But it's okay to I even have to deal with this sometimes too. And, I say, oh, you look nice, you look pretty, but you have, 20 years in, you might, and it could just be a police thing, but you might not want to say, oh, you look beautiful, because beautiful is like, oh, well, that's a fancy word, or something like that. And you might really mean it. You just don't say it. And sometimes you just get comfortable, not conveying that, even though you feel it. And so, like with Navart, she likes to hear stuff. Like, her thing is she wants to hear thank you, and thank you for doing that, even though she knows I'm thankful, and we kind of split the duties around the house. But so that's something little, and it sometimes it's hard. I'll forget, or she'll say something like, really, but that's the end of it.
But you always, like, you, even if I am needy in that way, which I can be, I know I can ask you for that. Like, I know that you will, even if you hear it and internally you're like, ugh, you know me enough, you appreciate my needs enough to be like, okay, yeah, I will work on that,
Yeah, I think that's just part of it, and that's the same thing. Back to the whole friendship thing is just like your friends. You are around the friends that you want to be around, because of their personalities, those types. You tend to move away from some that you don't, and so when you're in a relationship, hopefully by the time you're in a committed relationship, a serious relationship, you've determined that that's the type of person that you want to be around. And then you'll tend to, as you grow and do that kind of stuff, you tend to pick up those traits and sometimes take on the traits of the person that you're with. But it really goes a long way when it's the person that's a lot like you. I mean, I say that, but then I think when we first started, there were probably some differences, and even in politics and different types of religious stuff, and that's, like I said, that's stuff that you obviously have to figure out and
talk.
Yeah, and I think people get stuck on. She says that, and I hear that, especially taking some of these classes I'm taking in grad school, and I don't think when people say like talk about it, I don't think it's like in this situation. I don't think that's not me. I don't like to sit there. I get it enough at work, talking to suspects, talking to victims, talking to this. She gets it. I don't. I mean, I think when you talk about it, I think talk sometimes comes out informally. I think sometimes most of the time, I think it's important that way. I think you can mention things and you can do that, but I don't know. I think sometimes people get scared of that. I think they think you're supposed to sit down once a week, and maybe that. I mean, if that works for you, great. But I think sitting down and having like a 30, 45-minute chat session about, well, what did I do wrong this week? What did I do right? What did I this isn't, we're not interviewing for a job. I mean, we're humans. No one's going to be perfect. I think you're always going to have those things. And, I think that you just learn, you mention it, and, you move on. Or if your spouse or your partner likes something, then maybe do those things. I mean, it's not rocket science. And I think it makes it easier when, if it's somebody that you want to be with, then, and y'all are moving in the same direction, I think then that's what makes it easy. Mm-hmm. We've only got, life's real short. I mean, it's not long.
And that, you apply, excuse me, the same thing to conflict, right? So people ask, one of the things was, how do you handle conflict and conflict resolution? And I think if the focus is you and winning the argument, then your relationship will lose. If the focus of the conflict is how do we get through this in a way that benefits the relationship, benefits the marriage. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not going to just pursue my own agenda in this argument. I'm not just going to talk to win. I'm going to say what I need to say to contribute, to listen, to get a point across because it needs to be gotten across, not because I'm trying to have the last word or whatever. And so I think when we say we don't cuss at each other, we don't yell at each other, like, those started with just basic respect and manners. Like, that's not something we didn't even have to talk about that. Like, we just, neither of us would ever do that. Right. And so,
my mom would threaten me probably, but
she'd kill you.
Yeah.
But it's just our personalities. Because that is incredibly disrespectful. Why would I yell at someone that I love? Why would I yell and cuss at someone that I
think it's also the boundaries you set. Because, I mean, I know, I mean, again, so part of the joking, so we say that, like, it's not, our house is goofy. And so this could bring up a whole nother set of stuff, but like, I'll joke with Nev sometimes, and she'll be walking by or something. I'll be sitting in my man cave where we're sitting down, and she'll walk by the door, and I'll be throwing her the finger as she's walking by. And it's a joke. I mean, she'll laugh, and we do stuff. So, I mean, we're silly. I mean, it's not
We've
like,
gotten sillier too over the years.
Yeah, so and our son's picking up on that too, because
it's raising a boy. You just kind of go with the flow.
But I mean, I don't think it's
all in fun. Like, it's no. And I think it's, to your earlier point of, like, you grow together. And one thing is, like, early on, we never probably would have done that. But then when we got, like, more comfortable with, like, joking certain ways, we were doing it at the same time. Like, we both got there together. And same with, like, politics and religion. Like, every change that we have made as people and every way that we've grown on the same schedule by having those conversations of, like, well, what do you think about this? And, oh my gosh, I heard this in the news today, or I saw this on Facebook. And then you talk. And so that's where, when you talk about talking, it's sharing your day. Like, if you send me a funny meme that you see or a video, then I talk to you about that, or like, oh my gosh, let me send this. And then, all of a sudden we have shared humor. Or if you find a really good article about something, you send it to me, and now I get to receive what this interest that you have. And even if I don't care, I'm going to take the time to read it because you're sending it to me for a reason. And now we have that to talk about. Or parenting. And, one of the questions is, how do you handle differences in parenting? I think you just, again, it's conversation. It's being open, first of all, to knowing neither of us are perfect parents and we're always going to learn. And I've spoken about how, even though I teach parenting, I get it wrong sometimes. And there are things that I get stuck in, and you have to kind of nicely afterwards take me aside.
Because he's our son is basically a mirror copy of me, so I can't wait till he's a teenager. Hopefully that'll probably start adding in some gray hair, but he's a wonderful kid, and far better than I was at his age, or at any age really. But no, I don't. I think everybody's afraid of parenting. I still worry about it. I mean, we just got done with vacation a few weeks ago, and our kiddo was running a fever. It was a horrible trip for him. He ended up having the flu, and and that's one of those things you worry about your kid physically. You'd rather have the fever. You'd rather be sick so that they don't have to. And you think that, hey, I only have this. As for us, we have an 11-year-old Tristan, and you've only got that one chance. And he's getting to the point now. I mean, he's scary to say, he's closer to leaving us or being in college than he was when he came and started with us. And our whole thing is, I think that we always just wanted to have a good human being first. I was a big athlete in high school. I enjoyed it, sports in college, and Navarre was like the brainchild. I never really gave.
No, we'll come back to that. That's wrong.
Yeah. So no, but I think that everybody just wants to get it right. And I'll be honest with you. I don't know all the techniques, but I can tell you from stuff that I've seen in my career is that, kids are pretty resilient, and as long as that the parents are actually there for them, spending time with them.
The relationship.
And Tristan knows that we're not perfect. I tell him, and he's a smart kid, so sometimes he'll say something that'll make you want to just like stop and be like, what? Or make me laugh when I hear her and him get into it, because he tends to push her more than he'll push me. But I think that, as your job, my opinion, and everybody's got different ones. I know different families push for different things. Some of them want, an athlete, want them to be all-star this, straight A's, this and that. And you're fortunate if you get them all. But I think really and truly, if you can just raise a good human, I think if everybody could just raise a good human, the world would probably be better. But, again, as long as you're there for your kid, I don't, just based off what I've seen a lot of kids, a lot of people I deal with came from broken homes, different, a lot of different problems, seeing the parents fight, seeing physical abuse, seeing all sorts of stuff like that, which obviously this isn't about. But at the end of the day, you're there for your kid. They see you in their life. You share something with them, and it may be, they're not going to realize it in the moment. There's no doubt. But as they get older and they start reflecting and some of those quiet times, heck, even some of their dreams, they'll remember those things, and something will trigger somewhere, and they'll know how important it is. So I think that's really and truly, there's no book to parenting. That's why they always say the first kid, everybody's worried about. The second kid, which I would have been the second kid, is just kind of like, whatever, just go be.
I was the baby. I was the best.
Yeah.
Most awesome.
The girl.
But I think going along with that is the example that we set, right? And we're not, part of that example is just being able to humble yourself and say, whoops, I'm sorry, I did not do that well as a parent, and I'd like to talk to you, child, about why that wasn't a good decision, and why I'm sorry that maybe we were a little hard on you there, or we said something we shouldn't have said. And so, so there are times where you have to say, hey, what if you tried this next time? Or when you did that, he wasn't even listening to you. You went on a lecture spree. So to that differences in parenting, I don't know that we've had differences in parenting in a massive sense. We've had perspectives on, well, I don't know that we need to focus on this, or he needs to do this more, or hey, you're hard on him on this and you shouldn't. So there are differences in that perspective, but nothing fundamental, I don't think.
Yeah, just different things on that. I mean, and that's nothing. That's never been anything major. It's never been a big disagreement on.
Maybe part of that also is before we had him, we had a lot of these conversations, right? The like, how do we want to, what is our thought on discipline? What is our thought, like, do we want to spank? Do we not want to spank? And then you just wing it.
I mean, that's something that even evolved over time because, I mean, we did try, because like we both came from that. I mean, I used to get, beat, and, you see all the memes for that and everything, or, and it did not work for Tristan. We think we spanked him a couple of times, and he would just get madder, and obviously you don't want to get to the point beating your kid or something. You might feel like it, but that was a decision we came to. Is it worked for him? He still got punishments, but his punishments came more in the form of taking toys away, or taking different things like that away, and that was something that really. We just changed our strategy up, but I think that's what you always do is you're assessing your strategies and how, and kids these days are different. I mean, I've seen it, again, I only have an 11-year-old, but when I started out, thinking of what I came from, and my sister will tell you that I got away with more than she got away with. But now kids, you've got 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds with phones and, all different things, and I won't even discuss that, but it's just different. It's just a different world, and some of that stuff you have to adapt a little bit, even if you keep, sometimes it's better to, like I said, when we mess up with Tristan, or if something, we discuss with him why we did what we did, or tell him we're not perfect. He knows. At the end of the day, he knows we're his parents. And when matter of fact, I had that conversation too long ago. It's like, look, man, sometimes we're going to make mistakes. We're not perfect, and I think that's important for kids to know. Of course, when they become a teenager, they'll probably throw that back in your face. But
okay, I'm going to interrupt you because one thing you said also triggered, when people ask, how do you manage conflict in parenting or something? I think one of the things I thought of while you were saying that is there is a level of, it all comes together, right? So when you have someone that you are married to that you love and you're friends with them and you like them as a person, you want to be around them, then when you're hit with a situation where you don't have clarity because you're emotionally wrapped up in something, then there's a level of trust that you have to have that if the other person is saying, hey, the way you handled that was not right, or can I make a suggestion, then there has to be a point where I put my pride aside. I might want to dig my heels in and do this thing, but if you're telling me that there is something wrong with what I'm doing, and you're doing it in a compassionate way, you're not ugly about it, you're talking to me in the right time, in the right way, then ideally you trust this person enough, and obviously with you I do, and I know you do back, but it's like, okay, I need to stop and think about this, otherwise you wouldn't have brought it up.
Right. Well, I think just like you said, I mean, you touched on it, was, if you're having a difference of opinion, and again, I'm not a therapist, I've just been married to one, studying to be one, but, it's kind of, what are you trying to achieve? What behavior are you trying to figure? I think couples, you're there for the kid, and if you have to be able to put like I was raised with spanking, and so was Nev, but we kind of, like we said, we kind of modified that. Well, if we would have stuck with that, because we said, well, this is what we know, this is what this worked for me, because I needed it. I'm gonna be honest with you. And towards the end, I can specifically remember times my mom would spank me with like a racquetball paddle or something. I just laughed.
Don't throw pads.
Yeah, well, she probably still got that somewhere. But I mean, that's what it comes down to, is what is your goal? Your goal is to discipline the child, to raise your, correct the behavior, whatever. So you have to take yourself out of it, get out of your own way. And so I think if you and your partner come together and discuss, hey, what is our goal? What behavior are we trying to correct? What are we trying to do? Then it becomes, you're like, hey, we love this child. How can we do that? Well, then it becomes about the child, not about you. And then maybe your defenses come down a little bit. It's not, oh, I'm wrong, because I know sometimes it's hard to admit you're wrong or you don't want to be this. But if you kind of put it off on something else, I think at that time, it makes it easier to kind of swallow your pride or eat crow or every other.
And that applies to marriage issues, right? Like if you're in an argument, is your goal to win, or is your goal to Ella? What are you doing?
She's got a ball.
If your goal is to win, then you will argue in a way that kind of gets you to win, I guess. You'll argue in a way that's not respectful. It's not in favor of the relationship. But if your goal is to resolve this issue and be in a good place with your spouse at the end of it and feel good together, then you will argue in a different way. You will listen better. You will put your own pride aside. And that's hard. And I feel like we've just gotten better at that over the years.
That comes each person is going to have that in their own relationship. I mean, they're going to do different. They're going to feel different things. Like, Jeff and Jenny might have different types of arguments or different types of something, and they might handle it a different way, but it works for them. They've got a great relationship, and we've got other friends that have great relationships, and they might be a little different than ours. And that's the ultimate goal. I'm not, I'm married to Nev. I'm not married to, someone else. And so, you just kind of have to approach it like that. I mean, you're in your relationship. You have to figure out what works best for you. You can read a book, or you can get some ideas. You can listen to Nev, podcast, different things, and you might find, out of 100 things, one might be, and you take that one and you kind of make it your own. I mean, that's life. There is no one solution to fix all to everything. I wish there was, but there's not. And I think that's the important thing to remember is that, even if you're stopped, and I say your life's goal is to move forward. Even if you're stopped, you're still not moving backwards. And you might be crawling, you might be, creeping along, but as long as you're not moving backwards, then that's what you're doing. As long as you're in a relationship saying, hey, we're going to get to this together. And I think that's what kind of the confusing thing now saying that is, there is no end goal. We are living life. There is no everybody says, you hear these different things that it's about the journey, and which is probably true more than it's not the end destination, because the end destination, I hate to tell you, is death. And so, this is what you do. This is life. I mean, enjoy the vacations, enjoy the dinners, enjoy the time, enjoy the movies, enjoy the small stuff, go for a walk. And I say that to say it to myself too, is, like we were talking about what we're going to do, taking a travel trailer out is, it's, even if it's a small trip, this is your life. You're not guaranteed tomorrow. Heck, it's Texas, and we're about to have this big freeze coming through. So who knows, Texas, we already saw the shelves raided and stuff. So I guess everybody thinks we're going to die tomorrow anyway. So,
if you're listeing to this, then we survived.
Yeah, hopefully. So, yeah, I mean, it's not, the best thing I would always say, and I know she's dealt with many different people, and for me personally, I could not be in a relationship. I would not spend this amount of time with somebody if I did not like them, and if they weren't my friend. And I think those are two main components. Everybody talks about love. You can love something. I think I have to really think about that before sticking my foot in my mouth. But I wonder if it's possible to love something but not like it. And,
I think
I don't know.
Experience that with children. You can love them and
that's the thing is I don't know for me if I could be in a relationship like that. I just don't, because time is so valuable, and when everybody, not just my line of work, but everybody's job. Somebody's doing something. Everybody's doing something somewhere. That takes up, our jobs take up the majority of our life. If you think about how much time you spend working, then you sleep 7 to 9 hours a night. I mean, really and truly, we have this finite amount of time that we're awake and doing stuff. Unless you're some of the guys I work with that only sleep like 4 hours. And so I just don't. I think you have to make sure it's worth it for you, in what you're doing. And I mean, I don't know of any other way to say that, really.
Right. And I think, again, it's the little stuff, right? It would be great if we could all go on dates all the time, and there, time wasn't an issue, money wasn't an issue, and you just do that whenever you want. But at the end of the day, that's not possible when you have kids and jobs and all the things. So you just have to find moments. Like, even if for us, like, even if I have to work, right? If I'm on my laptop doing something, I'll just sit in here with you. Like, we're both are off on Fridays together on purpose. We've worked that out. And that day is spent like having, breakfast or lunch or running errands, or we just come back here and, we're just hanging out. And I might have to work still on, like, not seeing clients, but I might have to do some admin stuff, and we're just in here together. Mm-hmm. And that time shared is, there don't have to be anything special to talk about. You're just sharing space and quality time. But then making sure you just find moments, you just invest. I don't know. It's something that, like, again, it doesn't really come difficult. Thankfully for us, because we like each other. But that doesn't mean that there are things about each other that frustrate us. For example, someone actually asked this question, and it applies well to us. How do you deal with the fact that you think I'm a terrible driver?
Oh, yeah.
Someone commented saying that it can be frustrating when you have to do the drive your spouse around, and there's maybe opinions shared, Richard, about that. He thinks I'm a terrible driver. Yet
we've
he wants
probably driven 3,000 miles for road trips, and I don't think you've driven 1 mile.
No, he wants me to drive or tow our travel trailer, but he doesn't like the way I drive my car. I'm concerned about everyone's emotional survival. I don't think it'll go well, but I'm going to try, because he needs to not have to drive 9 hours straight in a row. So I will try 13 hours straight in a row. But listen, my presence is comforting, and that should be enough.
Well, I think that stuff's, I mean, and I don't want to.
It turns into a joke, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I wouldn't diminish it. I mean, obviously, if someone brought it up, then obviously that's something, I would say this is just for me. Take it or leave it, but I don't like being. Maybe figure out what the person you're with likes, what gets them, what motivates them to switch something. Maybe it's a hint. I don't like being told directly. I just don't. Like, if you're going to go take out the trash, you're going to do something, and then someone tells you to do it, I don't want to do it anymore. And maybe that's just me. Maybe that's a human thing, but I tend to think that I know that with our son, it's the same way. He'll be a complete angel, and then if he was going to go do something anyways, and then you remind him to do it, all of a sudden he doesn't want to do it anymore. And so I think there's different ways to go about doing that. I wouldn't say, you suck at this, and you do it. Now, I do make occasional comments on near-death experiences when she's driving.
But to be honest, I have caused most of the damage to the vehicle.
Yeah, hitting our house a couple times.
I did, unintentionally. I did.
The marks on my truck are from you.
Yes, they are.
So stuff like that happens. It has turned into a joke. But I mean, again, I think you pick and choose your battles. If it's something major, I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm not the best one to talk to on that, because I'm saying if it's something major, I always look at it. Life's short. I mean, I've seen all sorts of crazy stuff, and that's why I think that anybody that's in like nursing or doctor or law enforcement, firefighters, I mean, you'll see, unfortunately, you see kids, you see young people and stuff. I mean, I've had friends that I'm now 10 years older than because they passed away a long time ago. I mean, that didn't even make their 30s. And so I think that if you don't want to do something, if that's not something you're committed to, and you don't want to waste time, don't waste time. If you're going to be in something and you want to make it work, then you find a way to make it work. There is no magic thing. You just have to consider that other person. And I think once you have those serious conversations, if something's really bothering you, like if it gets to the point that it's coming up, then I think at that point you might have to have a sit-down conversation. And you kind of try and disarm the other person as much as you can. But I mean, unfortunately, I think if you're going to have a serious issue and you have to do that, you have to be direct. If it's gotten that far, you have to be direct and tell that person, and it's going to suck and it's going to hurt, but then that way from there you can move forward. If you don't ever fix that issue, I think then you're just dragging it along.
Well, one thing we both have in common is neither of us, and I think this encompasses a lot of it. We like each other enough to not want the other hurt and sad. So we're willing to be the person that goes and apologizes or hey, are you okay? What do you need? But also, neither of us do well with sweeping things under the rug. Like, if I'm upset, I'm going to have to talk to you about it because, first of all, that's a lot. I don't like carrying that. Second of all, you're my person, so I need to resolve that with you, whether it involves you or not. You ultimately, I need to go over this with you to feel better, and I think that goes for you. Now, there's some stuff because of your job, like, and this is just something that I understand from the beginning of this career. You know, like he shares stuff with me in a way that about work, for example. I know compared to some other line for first responder marriages, there's an issue with that. He doesn't talk to me, she doesn't share with me, whatever. We don't have that issue for a lot of like the basics, but there's an understanding too that there's some stuff he's just not going to tell me because I don't need to have that in my head. I don't need to know all the things that he sees. I don't need to understand all the craziness because there's just a line, but we understand the line, and you have your people to talk to about that and stuff like that. So I think it's also just not pushing each other where you don't need to be pushed, not demanding things, but really talking, hey, I feel like this is something that we really need to talk about, or I'm worried about you, or whatever. And so I think it's a shared desire not to hold secrets, not to keep things from each other, and not to see the other person suffer and not care. Like, that's just not in our nature.
Sure.
Because I like you.
Yeah.
A whole lot. I know. You're kind of awesome. All right, let me look at our list. There's other bigger things that we probably didn't have time for. Some of them I think we answered accidentally, which is great. Talking about difficult, toxic family members, we're going to leave that one for another time because that's a big one.
Yeah.
Differences in parenting, making marriage priority in the chaos of parenting. I think we're kind of covering that. Driving. Male perspective on parenting. One of my friends, Alicia, wanted to ask about that, but you kind of shared.
Well, I think, yeah. I mean, that's. I think people generally think that, and maybe that's the case, that men generally either want the corporal punishment or harder on the kid. And that's the. And I think you also have to be careful not to look at it as being harder. It's the dad's job. I mean. My mom raised me, so obviously my father was there, but they were divorced and, doing that kind of stuff. So I lived with my mom, so that was kind of how it was. But and I had coaches and stuff, and sports were great for me. Kept me out of trouble. But I think people also have to remember, everybody's different. The kids are different, but there's a balance. You want to. Dads, at least from my perspective, I'll speak to me, is I want to teach Tristan how to be a good man, how to be a strong man. I heard something one time it was something along the lines of, if you're weak, you're just weak. You can't do anything. So weak people don't have an option. Okay, if you're a strong person, then you can choose to be good. So if you come from a position of strength, then you can choose to be good, and that means something. If you're just weak, you're just weak. You're not choosing to do anything. I mean, that's just. And so I think fathers' jobs, not that they have to be this over the top, ridiculous man, like, yeah, we're gonna go out there and crush some skulls or play. Your kid might not play football, might not play basketball, might not play sports. Period. But I think that it's important to that fathers are good, strong role models for their son. They need to be strong. They need to be able to stand up to a bully. They need to be able to stand up for their friends. And I think that that's important. I also think that there's a line too. I mean, you don't want to, if your kid's not, inclined, and I speak just to son because that's what I have. I don't have a daughter. For the father to, be hard on, well, you don't know how to, build anything or put a hammer in his hand and have him go smash his fingers up because you don't know how to hammer anything. I think those are important things. Like there's a line between teaching and then being an a-hole essentially, and doing things like that. So,
but you've also had to learn to, I don't learning, I think you just had to be aware of it, that Tristan does have a sensitive side, and learning how to balance.
Yeah, I mean, he runs a very, I'm sure for everybody out there that has kids, you'll see different sides of parents and stuff. So as tough as the kid can be, is strong-willed and all around tough, and playing sports and just wrestling with the Great Dane and stuff. But yeah, he can very much come across like Nev sometimes. And so it's she'll come in and tell me sometimes like, hey, he needs a hug, or needs some encouragement, or needs something like that. And again, it's my first rodeo, so you adjust and you make sure he understands. And like I said, I always try and tell him, regardless if I come down on him for anything that's justified or even unjustified. If he sees it, kids nowadays think everything's unjustified, but I always tell him, look, this always comes from a place of love, and I want him to understand that even as most disappointed as we may be about something he does, and thankfully they're not that frequent, that he understands that it's disappointment, but it's never going to make us not love him. And I think that fathers, specifically male, as long as they know that on their kids and not being overly hard on them, but there's, depending on how you were raised and how they see that, there could be some legitimate issues saying that, oh, they're being too, over the top with the male stuff. But also I would say consider that, some of that is because there are differences, and it's important for a dad to do those things. So, that's very much a part of raising a boy. Wouldn't know anything about a girl, but
right. Well, there are a lot of, you and I have talked about like studies that there are about, I don't remember the details, but like the impact of kids growing up without a dad.
Fathers are incredible, you hear, and obviously I think they're both important, obviously, but yeah, there is a lot of research out there saying that, especially with criminality and stuff, like a father, depression, and have to pull up some of the studies, but they're incredibly important, and more important than what you think. And unfortunately, that's in modern times, it's usually seen, and I hate to say it, but it's probably more of a generalization. But generally speaking, I think that it's usually the father. It's usually the father that walks out on the family, and so that's how you get that.
Doesn't get to be as involved because of custody stuff. The dad doesn't get prioritized and stuff. But that's a whole big, right? But I'm mindful of our time. We're coming up to an hour. It's excellent. So we're gonna wrap up, but I think we're probably gonna end up having to do more because this is fun for me. So I think we answered a lot of the questions, and I love this. This is fun. You didn't want to do this, but you're a rock star.
Anybody that knows me knows I could probably talk to a wall, but it's different being on.
I love it.
Different on that, and she let me have the football game on in the background, so that was, if you saw my eyes looking this direction, it's because the Texans are up at halftime. And obviously the Cowboys play tomorrow too, so there will be no discussing anything during that. But
had to get done today.
Yeah, it was fun. It is. It's just a little insight. It doesn't work for everybody, and it's not. We might be unique, we might be ununique. That's just everybody does the same thing. But I think it's always interesting. I love you.
Yeah, it's great. And our dogs are ready for us to entertain them. Okay, thank you for being with us today. I apologize for squeaky toys in the background and all the things, but we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.